Hey folks, welcome back to the GM's Alcove. Thought I'd make a different kind of video today. After my earlier update today, I got to looking through my Pathfinder collection, and man, I've amassed quite a few books. I mean, it's not a huge collection, but it's quite a few. I thought I'd make a little video, at least for my reference, kind of catalog all the books I've collected, first and second edition, and everything in between, i.e., playtest. Talk about them a little bit. And yeah, so strap yourself in. We'll go through some of these books. Hopefully it won't take too long. I'll talk about them and what I think about those books, starting with Pathfinder 1E. Of course, right off the bat is the core rule book. This is the bad boy that got me back into role-playing. 1E. Yeah, a lot of good memories with this. And of course, I got it all tabbed up, as you do. And read through it a number of times and had some good games. This, of course, is the first book you got to have playing Pathfinder, at least 1E. And admittedly, I got into Pathfinder late in the game. I think it was around for 10 years. And I got into it probably 3 or 4 years before they dropped this for second edition. So I wasn't in it long, but I tried to collect as much as I could, book-wise, and play it as often as I could. Yeah, great book. Love this. It's basically D&D 3rd edition all over again. Pathfinder. D&D kept alive. I think they even say that in the back here or something. Something like that. D&D 3.75 lives or something or whatever. Yeah, made quite a few videos playing this actually, or talking about it. Yeah, I got some older videos I need to still edit, in fact, and put up playing this online. Good fun. There it is. That's the core rule book. A little bit smaller than the second edition one. But yeah, got that. Of course, you got to have the screen. I had the screen. Even if you're playing online, the screen is so useful. And I just realized this is portrait as opposed to landscape. Didn't even realize that. Haven't looked at it in so long. So yeah, there's the screen, of course. And then, of course, the next book would be the Game Mastery Guide. Got to have this if you're going to run games of Pathfinder. And I love this book. This was really useful to me. And it's got all the NPCs in there, all this other kind of stuff. All kinds of random charts for generating treasure, encounters, dungeon rooms, all that kind of stuff. So a little bit more of an old school feel to this than some of the newer games. But yeah, very useful. And I still refer to this even today. There is some useful advice you can get from this book. Yeah. And by the way, I still use a lot of the information from these books, even now with Pathfinder 2nd edition. Next up in the core books you have to have to play or run the game, it's the bestiaries. And I had the basic 3, I think. I don't know if I had any more than that. They come out with what, 6 or 7? Well, here's 3 of them anyway. Of course, the first one, chock full of monsters. All the stat blocks and everything else. Dragons. All your basic monsters are in the first book. And each one kind of has a little different kind of theme as you go through them. Book 2 here, Bestiary 2. Same kind of thing going on. This was a very crunchy game, to say the least, as you added more and more content that Paizo released. This is the 3rd one. And to be honest with you, all you really needed was this one. I mean, essentially what you're getting with this is a lot of extra stuff. I mean, if you've been playing a long time, these extra bestiaries are fantastic. You never run out of monsters. But this is the essential one right here. So that's 3 of the bestiary books. Awesome. Let's see what we got next. Campaign setting. Galarian, the Inner Sea World Guide. This, of course, describes Galarian, This is another really useful book. I use this quite a bit, learning about the different deities and religions and nations that are in Galarian. Extremely useful book. A must-have if you're going to run games of Pathfinder. Yeah, you can see it's kind of used. Beautiful maps. And I still use this still as well. I mean, this is basically lore. So it's not exactly something you won't be using in the future. Taldor. And another thing that's fantastic about the Paizo books, production quality is always high. And they always have beautiful illustrations. Whether it's Wayne Reynolds or any of that sort of styled Baba Yaga. Great stuff. So yeah, I still use this book. The Inner Sea World Guide. So there is that. And we've got a couple little extra books here that I don't think I really used. I don't know. Got the Villain Codex, which I believe was all about villains, adding villains to your game. Complete section of 20 villainous organizations, including a power-hungry arcane society, greedy merchant caravan, a fleet of scandalous pirates, and a creepy secret society of wily thieves. That sort of thing. Outlaws, ruthless brigands. Again, I never really used this book. I never had the chance. All these little NPCs. Wow. Slave keepers. Ooh. Encounters. Adventure cads. Again, look at that beautiful artwork. Sad that I never used this much, but even then, this information here is still usable, no matter what game you're even using. I mean, the stats, of course, would be different, but the ideas, the inspiration, even the artwork is highly usable for your games. That said, that's one reason I probably will never get rid of these books, and the investment I put in them makes them worth it for long into the future, even if, I'm playing a different game. Now this one I think I did use somewhat, NPC Codex. This is all about NPCs, enemies, and allies. All kinds of stats and all that good stuff. And again, gotta love this artwork. There's Mauricio. And Paizo put out a ton of books for Pathfinder. In its 10-year lifespan, first edition we're talking here. And I only have a small fraction of these. And you can see how, as the years went by, the game started to change a little bit. Like there were some books entitled Unchained, I believe, or something, that added some new ideas to the rules that would eventually lead to Pathfinder 2e, actually, from what I understand. But again, great inspiration. I've never really used this book much. I think I did a little bit, and that's about it. Let's see what else we got. The Ultimate Campaign. None of these books weren't even really essential to playing the game. Like I said before, you need the core book, the game mastery guide if you're running it, and at least one of the bestiaries, and you were good to go. And people still play this version of the game, so yeah, there's some guidance if you're thinking of getting into Pathfinder 1. Those 3 books are essential. This is the Ultimate Campaign book, and I never really had a chance of reading this before 2nd edition came about. But I guess there's all kinds of stuff here on running a long-term campaign. Downtime tracking sheet. Here's where it starts talking about proper downtime and keeping track of stuff that you would do when you're not out adventuring. Rooms and teams reference. Interesting. But again, I'll still be looking through these books in the future and finding little tidbits that I could add to my game. Or maybe something is missing from my current game that I could go back and find it in 1st edition and port it over, basically. So that's the Ultimate Campaign Guide. Not essential, but useful. And of course, here's the APG, first edition. This is going to add classes and stuff. Things to expand your game. Some people swear by this book, or they did, as it adds all kinds of new options for the player. And more customization stuff for the main races. Classes. Alchemist, Cavalier, Inquisitor, Oracle, Summoner, Witch. New things for the core classes. Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, and so on. Anti-Paladin. Talk more about feats. New spells. Prestige classes. Remember those. Good old prestige classes. And, yeah. I didn't really add much to my campaign from the APG. This really adds a lot of additional content for players, mainly. And, yeah. Again, not essential, not a core book, but definitely something you want to have if you're playing this long term. Advanced Player's Guide. Expand your game. New classes and races. Strategy Guide. This is a smaller book. This one was one of my favorites, believe it or not, for you Pathfinder players out there. I really enjoyed this, and I guess maybe partly because I was just getting into Pathfinder at the time, this was actually useful. This kind of helped you figure out what class and what race you'd be best suited for based on how you'd like to play the game. And I went through questionnaires and stuff, and eventually it come to a conclusion like, oh, this is the options for class and race that you might want to think about playing. They suit what you're looking for. So it was literally a little questionnaire. I thought that was interesting. Been a while since I looked at this book. Again, beautiful artwork. And I'm curious if Paizo will ever make a book similar to this for second edition. You never know. And basically, in general, it's just great for new players, new to Pathfinder. This book is very useful. It helps figure out what is best that you'd want to play. And some basic descript of the various races and classes that are in the game. It's a smaller book, but yeah, so it's easily manageable, digestible, if you will, for players. So yeah, this was one of my favorite books. Again, not essential, but so useful. The Ultimate Equipment book. Definitely long-term player. This is going to be extremely useful. This is full of all kinds of new bits of equipment. As you can tell here, new gear, wondrous items, arms, and armor. Appendices right there. You got treasure generator, gems and jewelry, art objects. Again, more detail, more content for your game. Not essential, but it is definitely going to be useful long-term for your campaigns. So there it is, Ultimate Equipment book. It's a thick one too. Definitely useful. And finally, I think this is the last book I have in my collection, 1E, Rise of the Rune Lords. And we actually played this a little bit. Never actually got a good run through, however. So I might actually play this in the future, especially if Paizo reprints a version of this for second edition, like I guess they're doing with Kingmaker. That would be fantastic. This is one of the best campaigns I think Paizo put out for Pathfinder, period, hands down. Excellent long-term campaign. And yeah, I know some people in second edition who have converted this over and have been playing it. It's the entire adventure path right here. This is a must-have, actually. I'd include this as a core book because this really, if you're new to Pathfinder, this really teaches you the game, or helps teach you the game, essentially, from beginning to end, low level to high level. This is great. What is this now? Anniversary edition. So yeah, that's it. Again, the core books, the rule book, the GM's guide, And at least the first bestiary, one would say all three, the initial three bestiaries would be your core books, as well as this, if you're going to run games in Galarian. This is great. And again, I still look at this because my games are set in Galarian. You get all kinds of background, the gods and the countries, nations, if you will. Of course, before I get too far with second edition, I should point out I did have the playtest of Pathfinder 2. I got the Doomsday Dawn series of adventures, which was meant to really playtest the heck out of the rules that they were throwing out there, especially the rules they were really curious about whether or not they would work or folks would like them. Sad, this also came with a flip mat as well, which I also have. So there is that. I never actually played in the playtest, but of course I tabbed up the book and I had the playtest version. I wasn't greatly impressed by it, honestly. But yeah, so I never actually went through the playtest, but I do have it. And there it is. So there is that. So there's the playtest going into second edition. Yeah. So there it is. There's a quick look at my collection. Probably going to be holding on to this for a long time and making use of it. So yeah. Before the video gets too long, let's jump into Pathfinder 2 and see what I've managed to collect so far.